Alrighty then, it's time for a double whammy of Xin Zhao. Let's get these shows on the road. For check one. Basically, it's two videos in one. Because if I try to upload either one of these by themselves, I'm pretty sure people would be upset. In both games, I'm doing a Titanic Hydra build as Xin Zhao. Also, take note of Rejuvenation Bead. It's to allow me to get Tiamat real quickly so I don't have to, spend or waste gold on any potions. I don't really need it since it's the potions, because my sustain is immense with Xin Zhao. You can do this on a lot of really high sustain junglers too, like Trondo and stuff, so go for it. Also, yeah, I invaded the Warwick. This is the same clip from the early invasion dueling video. It's just kind of, when Jace picks off the Warwick and I kill the Gnar, he was super, greedy with his flash, and he ended up dying for it. I'm also able to steal Warwick's Krugs, which puts him behind a lot because he likes to do Krugs. And I also get the Scuttle Crab and then go do the Froggo. This is a big advantage for me because now I have boots and a Tiamat. My AoE clearing is insane, which is going to just put me miles ahead of the Warwick even more, who for whatever reason dumped his money on jungle items, which is where he shouldn't really be doing. Plus my damage and my mobility is way higher than it normally would be, so I'm super threatening for ganks. I ganked bottom lane, and they used a ton of crap to try to survive against me, and they still died. Of course, my teammates did the majority of the damage because I was exhausted, but you get what I mean, right? I can literally destroy anyone on the enemy team, maybe some of them in a 2v1 right now because of that huge advantage early on. Having a Tiamat, especially on somebody who can, animation cancel, is pretty big for a lot of burst situations. Anyhow, I'm just kind of putting the nail on the coffin of this Warwick. I know exactly what he's doing. I'm way faster than him now. There's no way he's going to be clearing as fast or as efficiently, so I can keep putting him down. Steal the blue buff, and then for whatever reason, Nami, I guess she gets cheeky, gets too close. Hopefully you notice how I'm moving, trying to stay in front of her so she has a lot of distance to cover if she tries to leave. And then I kill her too. For whatever reason as well, the Jin thinks hanging out by a low health turret when there's likely a Xin Zhao around and also Lulu is a good idea. So he gets killed, I get the kill, and we get the tower. The amount of advantage I have in this game right now is so ridiculous. And it's like, I can't even say that some of the opponents were doing, were bad or something. They just made some really horrible decisions because they were underestimating the willingness of the enemy to destroy them. The Gnar is going to survive this, but I want you to pay attention to what I did there. My E was on cooldown, and the Gnar was going to cover way too much distance before my E would, be off cooldown, and I could close the gap on him. So I used my auto attack Qs on the minions, so I can lower the cooldown of my E and then try to stick to him. Like, even if I lose some of my damage because I did that, it's still better to be able to catch up on him and maybe destroy him or kill him, right? So it was an attempt. Also, because of where Warwick was, I knew, and I said this on stream, he was going to come by this area to kill the Jace. So I just casually wait there and jump up immediately. Of course, though, his fear throws me off and I'm not able to save the Jace, but I do kill the Warwick, and then again, I'm way too strong for them to deal with at this point. And Gnar is not really the greatest duelist, especially when he gets on melee range against someone as awesome as Xin Zhao, and he gets obliterated as well. At this point, you can't really say, oh, it's a Titanic Hydra video. It's more a Xin Zhao slaughters everything video. But yeah, I'll just kind of talk about that Titanic Hydra build on Xin Zhao. So like I said, one of the best things about Xin Zhao's rework is that it has allowed him a slew of more build paths. Or better yet, malleable build paths. So for some of you that don't know what that is, it's an old term I used to use in a lot of my videos. It's become less of a thing because a lot of items were changed and staple builds have become a thing, except for a few junglers like Jarvan. But malleability in the jungle was a big deal. It basically meant that you could change your build ad hoc during a game. Essentially, you can say, oh look, I start off first pick Xin Zhao, I don't know what I'm going to build yet, but I'm going to alter my build depending on what happens in the game, who I'm fighting, and and essentially that. The new Xin Zhao, you have so many build paths you can take thanks to the rework. It's mostly because of how the E was changed and how his W was changed. You were allowed more flexibility with his build. Again, AD caster build is a thing on him now that's really great. More lifesteal stabbiness is still there, and just kind of like a weird hybridy thing. Essentially, you're not as punished as you were before for not taking, you know, a very strict AD heavy attack speed AD build, or mostly heavy attack speed build as before. So hooray for that. In this case, even if I wanted to test out the Tiamat build here, Titanic Hydra build. Even if I wanted to test it out, let's say the game changes into a different state where the enemy echoes, you know, going crazy, or I need to be tankier or something, I could do that as Xin Zhao, and it wouldn't hurt me as bad as it would before. And I love that. And essentially put, it's like, every build I've tried with Xin Zhao has had mostly a good amount of success. Some of them more than others, and the ones I found were the Titanic Hydra build and the Blade of the Rune King build with a Trinity Force later. Though Trinity Force is still great on the Black Cleaver build with the Titanic. One of the things though that I want to stress out is, of course, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. And the Titanic Hydra's advantage over the Blade of the Rune King build or the other builds you can try taking is that its weakness is that it's way weaker in the early game and the early mid game because its components aren't as good. You know, Kindle Gem and Phage. Phage is good, but you know it's not going to give you that murderous power as just buying a bunch of long swords early will. And Kindle Gem is Kindle Gem, right? And then obviously the other components are also in the same kind of spectrum. But once you buy your Black Cleaver and once you have your Titanic and then your Tiamat and your Black Cleaver, you start seeing the power just skyrocket. And once you get the Titanic and then start feeding more health stuff into it, you can become way more brutal. Plus being able to survive more, so you fight better and stuff like that. Essentially put, like, this build, the Titanic Hydra build, the Black Cleaver, and then buying other things like Dead Man's Blade or Randuin's Omens, has way stronger late game than Blade of the Rune King. Because honestly, despite the rework being really great, you still kind of suffer from the whole kiting thing and being CC down and destroyed. And the Black Cleaver Titanic Hydra build helps with that a lot. So, you know, take into consideration what's going on or who your opponents are. In this case, I went to Titanic because I felt a Tiamat early on against someone like Warwick, who's likely not going to invade me, who's likely going to be a lot slower than me, and who I can possibly beat down. I'll just be able to outpace him with the Tiamat. That's what I thought, and that's why I went with that. Plus, Titanic allows you for some really groovy combos, or even a Tiamat, but then for some reason, when you evolve it to Titanic, it seems to flow better with his Q, where you can charge in, do the whole animation cancels, and then just throw your Hydra in there, or Titanic in there, and it somehow just kind of doesn't even like animate or whatever. You just get this like big ass burst in one go. And it's amazing. Everyone who's seen it on stream has seen me do that, where it just kind of do like 1,000,000 damage on some character out of nowhere, and that's cool. So yeah, this game has pretty much reached that point where I kind of ran away with it so much, and there's literally nothing they can do about it. Like, even though they focused me, I'll probably murder at least a couple of them, and then my teammates will clean up. Or if they focus me, my teammates just wipe the floor with them. I accelerated my team's power so greatly because of my early game shenanigans. It's insane. The enemy team, again, there's no telling if they would have been amazing players when they were grouped up or whatever, but I just kind of gave them no chance in hell to do that. That's what strong early game duelists, early game invaders, super aggressive kind of junglers can enable. You just shut out the enemy team. You just kind of never let them get to a point where they're any useful. Like, I've stressed it out in the past, like someone with Nunu or something, where you just invalidate certain characters in the enemy team that they're basically a glorified minion at that point. And essentially, even if you're in shenanigans early on, put you a little bit behind, you're still going to be way more ahead than the guy you just kind of deleted from the game. So yeah, this first game was a stomp for very early on. My invasion worked out, I shut down the enemy Warwick, he could never do anything, and I fed a lot of my teammates. And with that, they just kind of rolled the game over. Lovely. It wasn't the best display of Titanic, because because it just kind of, you know, got fed off my ass, but hey, you know, it worked, and I love both builds so far on him. So far, I'm enjoying the Titanic build way more than the Blade of the Rune King build, but like I said, this one has a low of strength in between the mid game, so you might not always consider it over the Blade of the Rune King or the Trinity Force one. That one's a pretty good one too. And you know, just the other slews of builds. The The half and half build is another one where you get, it's one where you get Hex Drinker, and then you get what I call the Angry Glove, and then you either build that into Steric's Gauge, or, you know, you just kind of build Steric's Gauge, some health, and then some like lifesteal item of some kind. So you just become this kind of really angry champion that when you get caught, you just kind of fight like in tooth and nail kind of situation. And then eventually, hopefully, Trinity Force. But that's a lot of gold, you know, talking. So yeah. Also, one thing I kind of want to talk about too is Guinsu's Rage Blade. A lot of people keep talking, do you build it on Xin Zhao? When I've tried it 2 times. They won't show up in the match history because it was one of the first times I wanted to try, because, you know, it's something that seems like it would make a lot of sense on him. And it just kind of felt like, you know, you buying it early felt very wasteful. Like my power, I kind of like dunked on my own power. And then buying it later on, it felt like it was kind of redundant at that point. So I just don't know about it. I mean, I guess maybe in some situations it could work, but I don't think it's really that good. So I just kind of avoid it altogether. And you saw there, this is another part of those clips from the dueling one where I catch the Jungle Yorick, who was doing it very, very wrong, by the way. Jungle Yorick is way better than what was displayed in that early clear, obviously. And then, for whatever reason, Wukong decided to throw his life away, and that pretty much accelerated me once again. So I'm able to buy a Tiamat, and I buy a longsword this time, so I can try to catch Yorick and kill him. In this case, I'm trying to go for more damage. I go for the gank early, on bottom lane early. It doesn't succeed in the kill, but it burns 2 flashes for very minimal effort, so that's still a huge win in my book. I go for the Scuttlecraft to allow myself to heal quite a little bit. I try to look for a gank on the Anivia, and then the poor Yorick just kind of ends up walking into me and just getting destroyed. Alas, poor Yorick. So yeah, he's pretty much put it back into the grave right now. So yeah, I've pretty much knocked out their jungler from the game, but kind of like a little bit of foreshadow or spoiler alert, I gotta give him mad props to some of the stuff he ends up doing in this game. Anyways, the enemy has no flash, and thankfully the Thresh lands his hook, and poor Zyra, she dies too. My ultimate just prevents the Zyra from, you know, killing me in a turret kill. You know, I was being destroyed by all the minions and everything. I love that ultimate. It's just such a, I'm gonna say, just a big old cock block against a lot of things. But yeah, the enemy Yorick ends up getting a choice kill against the Aurelia. I end up being able to kill Anivia. I'm still trying to hunt down the Yorick, but instead he's going to be pushing. This is what I got to give props to. So, essentially, at some point or another, you become kind of worthless in some games. You know, you get knocked around or whatever. So, if you're a strong split pusher, at that point, who cares if you die a million times? He's just going to keep split pushing, and you're going to see the amount of damage he gets to do because everyone just kind of seemingly ignores him. I also got to point out, this was a whole lot of badness from me and the Aurelia. Right now I'm going to go top lane to try to kill the Wukong. He's also super, super pissed in all chat. But yeah, the Aurelia, what I'm thinking is that Wukong is getting very aggressive on her. Really stupid aggressive on her. And I'm just wanting her to sort of bring him to me. She got impatient and took a lot of free hits, and I got impatient too and jumped in there while his ultimate was going on, thinking maybe I would, you know, just kind of kill him after I got landed back on my feet. Whatever, I got the tower, I got this minions, and then Wukong shows up, and because I have no mana, I stand literally no chance in hell fighting him, and I just die. That's really bad, because it kind of brings him back into the game. Not really, because his CS is still really low. It just makes him not as bad as he would be. But yeah, the Aurelia was taking a lot of free hits because she was quote-unquote baiting. That's not how you bait people, that's just not how you do. She kills the Wukong in a revenge kill and he gets a lot angrier. And then the Yorick kills her in a revenge kill, so hey, a lot of, you know, that mafia or that gangster kind of thing. You kill our homie, we kill your homie. Same thing, I'm walking around trying to bury the enemy team. It causes Aya to use her ultimate. That was pretty, you know, it was some kind of advantage, although the Thresh probably didn't need me to gain that advantage right there. But yeah, look at Yorick. He's basically dominating the top lane right now. I go really gung-ho just to make sure he can't take it, but he ends up taking it anyways. So I gotta give props to that. He's kind of, you know, he's not worthless right now in gold-wise because he did kill the Aurelia in some choice kills. But at this point, the enemy team has lost a lot of control of the map and or any real advantage. The only thing they kind of got going for them is if they were to group up and just started, you know, picking people off. But that's not going to happen. My team, or at least a lot of the individual members of my team, are super dangerous at this point. Victor's really strong. I mean, I'm Xin Zhao. The most they can do is get some choice surprise kills on somebody. But usually they're going to pay the price for that very quickly because, again, independently, all my members are way stronger than theirs. In this case, I went Tiamat for the similar reason as I did with the Warwick game. I didn't feel Yorick would ever really invade me, and I'd be able to just sort of kind of steal from him constantly because he's not the fastest jungler, and his sustain is going to work against him when he runs out of blue, so I'd be able to either hound him or just steal his camps undeterred. At least that's what I was hoping. Plus, I kind of had this idea that maybe Tiamat would help me against his AoE pushing and you know, that kind of stuff. And of course, Black Cleaver and Tiamat combination is just kind of really delicious, so that's a good one. And it also would help against, you know, the fact that they're not going to really be stacking that much armor, and then you got Yorick, who you kind of want to burst down very quickly before he starts beating the shit out of you. So that's what was my reasoning for this build. If they didn't have such bursty champions or such champions that needed to be really annihilated quickly, I'd have probably gone play the Rune King. That one would make more sense, but again, look at their champions. I mean, aside from Yorick, if they had Yorick and other champions, they probably would have gone with the Rune King. Aside from Yorick, the rest of them you kind of want to knock them down or knock them about. You don't really want to prolong a fight with them because you got a lot of shenanigans to kite you, or they got shenanigans to, you know, murder you. You just kind of want to put them into the grave. But anyways, I digress. This game is just kind of really messy as well, because my team is fighting right now. If you guys saw the stream, then my teammates were arguing back and forth about some shenanigans. It was mostly Aurelia, and she was mostly mad at me because of the early game situation where I got some of the kills, and because you know, we died to Wukong, kind of, you know, stupid, and then because she said I stole her lane, but I was just kind of, you know, pushing it. Whatever the case, the same thing as in the other game. Look at my health now because of this build. If you go to the other video where I'm just going with the Rune King, one of my weaknesses was that I was pretty fragile. And, you know, if I stood there and started fighting with people, the lifesteal will take over and I would be pretty hard to kill, right? But otherwise, you know, if I got caught by even some stray crowd control or just, you know, bursted down, there was no chance in hell I would make it. But with this, even though I don't have that amazing lifesteal or all that cool attack speed that the Rune King build would have, I can just kill somebody before they get to really react, or hurt them enough that they either start running away, or my next volley, or just my stabs right after will finish them off. So, again, out of both builds, that the both primary with quotation mark builds that I've seen so far, this one's the one that I'm enjoying the most. But again, his build is very malleable. If you need to alter it on the whim, it wouldn't hurt you so much. Like in another game where I was going the Titanic Hydra build, I started off with the Tiamat, and it soon became evident that I couldn't, you know, it wouldn't be a good idea to keep going with that build, so I just started building tanky right off the bat. Dead Man's Plate. I was working towards a Righteous Glory, I believe. And so then the Titanic Hydra still did some effect, but it wasn't as cool or badass as having a Black Cleaver. But you get what I mean, right? The malleability on him is super important, and it makes him one of the best first pick junglers right now, in my opinion, which is very rare because a lot of first pick junglers are pretty, you know, are pretty vulnerable. Just a lot of junglers right now can't really be picked as first pick without having some issue run amok. Or at the very least, they're strong already and you just kind of deal with it. Or even if you get sort of slapped down, you'd still probably be good anyways, a la Sejuani. Yeah, again, like someone like Sejuani who's just really strong right now in the jungle, but you can be prone to invasion. It doesn't matter if they knock you down, you'll still be useful, right? But with someone like Xin Zhao or Jarvan, they have the versatility to, you know, to make up for whatever wacky team composition your team has or whatever composition your opponents have. You can adapt your build before the game starts. When the game is in there, like, you know, when you see what your opponents end up picking or how the game starts, and then you can alter your build midway when you see sort of how the game is tapering in. Again, like with Jarvan, and this will apply to Xin Zhao too, if I'm, let's say, if I was planning on going some tanky build because of what I saw in my opponents, but I start getting super fed, these champions are super strong with damage-centric builds or bruisery builds that it really wouldn't hurt you to take advantage of that early lead you took. But you guys know that some champions like a Nautilus or something, even if you got fed early, you can't just decide, oh, I'm going to be building something that would help me with my fighting potential, my killing potential, because in the long run it's actually going to end up hurting you. You know, like the effectiveness of that build will go down if the game is prolonged or something changes. But on someone like Xin Zhao and Jarvan, having a black cleaver because you got pretty fed early isn't going to be bad, even if you end up having to go pure tank later on. It's going to still do really well for you. And I love that in these champions right now. It's a main reason I'm picking Xin Zhao constantly all the time, because he's just someone super effective for that you can first pick and not have to worry about a lot of shit. So yeah, right now my recommendation is, if you want to start ranking up, if you want to, you know, have a jungler who's just, even if they probably nerf him down, he'll still be pretty strong, you know, first pick kind of champion, a versatile champion, or at least versatile in the offensive case. I would learn Xin Zhao. And he's also pretty cheap to purchase too, so it's just kind of, you know, a huge recommendation for you. He's a great beginner champion too. He's not really that hard to play, although some of the cool combos you get to do and timings for it become, you know, are something you have to learn and become more adaptive with. And then of course all the little invasion crap I end up pulling, you sort of become experienced with that, but that comes with time, right? So yeah, in both games the enemy team was absolutely brutalized, and the reason I decided to put them both in one big ass video is because if I did it individually, people would be mad saying you only pick stomps. Well, it's not that I only pick stomps, is the only thing I had for the Titanic Hydra build was they were stomps. So that's what I'm going to use. Even the other Titanic Hydra builds that are no longer in match history were pretty much stomps. I cannot stress how awesome it feels that once you get your core items with this and you start building more health, to go in there and do this weird animation loop that just kind of bursts people down. I believe right now when I catch somebody down here, you get to see it if you're careful. I do it constantly. It feels like, just watch my item cooldown. Like the Hydra just sort of goes on cooldown and you do this weird little burst alongside your Q animation. So it just feels so like natural and it's cool. And yeah, anyways, Xin Zhao, I've been enjoying him so much. The amount of builds you can do with him makes him such a safe jungler. Totally worth learning. And some people will say, although it's in low division, yeah, in higher divisions he'll likely become a much harder champion to, you know, use effectively or get away with all these shenanigans. But at least his build versatility and just kind of being super aggressive kind of jungler will help him stay relevant. Again, full on recommended. I enjoy playing him. I think so. The majority of you would too. And maybe I'll do more of these double whammy videos in the future if you guys enjoyed this, because sometimes I feel I can't use some footage because there's stomps, and I have chain stomps, just pure stomps like that, and I don't know, you know, I can't upload a video if it's just pure stomps. People get angry at that. And remember, if you enjoyed the video, make a comment below in the comment section, and also give the video a like. That helps the channel a lot more than you think.